me, this investment by Rana Motors is a strong indication of the private sector's support of my government's industrialization agenda and a sign of growing resilience by the private sector in these challenging times. I want to assure you, and indeed all private sector players, the government will continue to introduce sector-specific policy interventions which create a predictable policy regime and an enabling environment for businesses to survive and thrive. I acknowledge that a critical component for harnessing the full potential for an automotive industry is demand for assembled vehicles. As you may all be aware, I have directed through the Chief of Staff at the Office of the President the prioritization of the procurement of domestically assembled vehicles by state institutions to fulfill government's commitment of patronizing made-in-Ghana products. We're, however, mindful of the fact that the state alone cannot purchase the sufficient numbers of vehicles to be produced from our assembly plants, and would thus require Ghanaians also to patronize these vehicles. To stimulate demand for domestically assembled vehicles, we will soon be rolling out an asset-based vehicle financing scheme as it exists in developed economies to afford Ghanaians the opportunity to purchase vehicles from the Ghana Automotive Development Program. For the assemblers under the program, I assure you that we will continue to engage in discussions that will lead to the expansion of the market for domestically assembled vehicles at the regional and continental levels to drive demand and create the necessary traction for you to transition into complete knockdown assembly, which will be supported by component and kits produced domestically to feed into the supply chain. We have also shown commitment by implementing the zero rating of VAT on the sale of domestically assembled vehicles. This means that there's no VAT on the sale of domestically assembled vehicles, even to the end user, to make domestically assembled vehicles affordable. To implement the outstanding provisions within the Customs Amendment Act 2020, I've charged the Minister for Finance, upon the resumption of Parliament, to submit the required legislative instrument proposing the implementation start date for these outstanding provisions of the Act. The implementation of these outstanding provisions will trigger the full implementation of the Ghana Automotive Development Policy and drive further investment into the industry.